everybody. Welcome back to Get Lit English and welcome back to Learn English Through Poetry. Guys, I know poetry is not everybody's cup of tea, but hey, if you are a poetry nerd and a word nerd like I am, then by all means, watch this video and learn alongside with me. I get so excited when I'm talking about poetry because I love the language and I love figurative language and the beautiful way that words and techniques work together to create really deep, meaningful messages in English. So, the moment you've all been waiting for, give a drum roll. I'm going to be teaching you today all about the lines that are in Sonnet 18. All right, it's taken me a while to put it together because there is so much depth in this poem. Even though it's such a short poem, it has a lot of meaning. And I wanted to try my best to make it as easy to understand for you as I could. So thank you for your patience. Are you ready? Let's get lit.
Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? A lot of people get confused when reading Shakespeare because he uses Old English vocabulary. So the first thing I want to point out is that thee, thou, and thine are eventually replaced by the modern word you. Thee, thou, and thine, or thy, are early modern English second person singular pronouns. Thou is a subject form, thee is the object form, and thy or thine is the possessive form. Shakespeare starts off this poem with a question. The question is, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Being compared to a summer's day, I think, is a great compliment because summer is beautiful. I love summer. And summer is a favorite season for many people. But more importantly, I think Shakespeare chose summer because summer is a symbol for youth and for innocence. Now, this is what we call a rhetorical question. This is not expecting an answer. A rhetorical question is a writing technique, and it's a question that's asked in order to create a dramatic effect or to make a point, not to get an answer. And I feel that Shakespeare has a very important point to make because I believe that he's writing this poem as a memorial for his son Hamnet, who tragically died when he was only 11 years old. To me, the point that Shakespeare is making is there is no comparison. He answers the question by saying that thou art more lovely and more temperate. And temperate is, when we're talking about weather conditions, it's neither very hot or very cold. It's a very moderate temperature. But we can also use the word temperate when we're talking about somebody's behavior. And a temperate person would be a very calm person, someone who has a lot of self-control. We use this phrase, there's no comparison, when we want to say that there's just no way we can compare two things. Either we say this when we mean the first thing is much better than the second, or that they're just very different, like apples and oranges. There's no comparison. Shakespeare did something very interesting. He chose to point out all of the negative sides of summer. Even though summer is amazing and wonderful, he doesn't talk about any of its awesome qualities. He talks about all of its negative qualities, like extreme winds, extreme heat, cloudy days, and the fact that it just doesn't last long enough. Shakespeare starts off talking about the rough winds that shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Buds, much like summer, is also symbolism, and buds represent youth because buds are the very beginnings of a flower. In our time, May is not really considered a summer month, but in Shakespeare's time it was. And May is a month that celebrates the blossoming buds of flowers as nature is preparing itself for summer. He also pointed out that summer's lease has too short a date. By using the word lease here, it reminds us of the fact that everything beautiful remains only for a limited time. When describing a summer's day, Shakespeare says, "Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dim." Now, when we look at the word complexion, we know that this is talking about the natural color of something, like the appearance of somebody's skin, especially their face. We're talking about the sun here. And so we know that that represents its brightness. And he's saying that it's often dimmed. Dimmed means to make or to become less bright or less distinct. So this is what we call figurative language. The eye of heaven is metaphor for the sun. His gold complexion dimmed is use of what we call personification. Personification is when we give human characteristics to something that is not human. So here, Shakespeare has used personification to show that even though the sun shines brightly in summer, sometimes it's surrounded by clouds, and that those clouds prevent the sun from shining as brightly as it could. Shakespeare goes on to say that summer and its beauty are only temporary. Now, by Shakespeare highlighting all of the negative qualities of summer, he is showing that the person he's talking about not only outshines, but will outlast summer. Your eternal summer will never fade. The word fair means something that holds beauty. Shakespeare says that every fair from fair sometimes declines, either by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. The use of repetition of the word fair here means that he really wants to emphasize the fact that beauty usually fades away. He's used the word by chance, which is a phrase that means something unplanned. I think this is very interesting because I think that he's showing that unlike summer that declines because of nature's changing course, his son's life, his son's summer ended early by chance, by something that was unplanned, because he died of a sickness, possibly the plague. Nature's changing course untrimmed. Untrimmed means something that's not changed, something that's uncut. We look at nature's course. What is nature's course? It's the natural, normal, ordinary sequence of unfolding things, whether it's a caterpillar going to a butterfly, or a baby becoming an adult, or winter cycling through spring, summer, fall, and then winter again. This is nature's course. Now, his son physically was robbed of nature's course. He wasn't allowed to become an adult. He died during his summertime, during his youth time. But we know that summer fades away because of nature's cycle. This is a natural thing. This isn't something that's unplanned. This is part of nature. And after bad mouthing summer, Shakespeare announces that the person that he's speaking about will defy the rules of nature because their eternal summer will never fade. So we ask ourselves, how is that possible? Everything has a beginning and an end. He says, but thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest. So, in other words, your beauty, your memory, your life will never fade away. You'll never lose the beauty that you have. This is figurative language again. He's used another metaphor. Eternal summer is standing for light, for memories, for beauty. And he's personified death. He says, nor shall death brag that thou wanderest in his shade. It means death is not going to be able to steal your light. Shade is similar to dimmed. We saw dimmed earlier, meaning that clouds would dim the sun's brightness. So unlike clouds that dim summer's brightness, death will not be able to shade your bright light. You will shine through. The word brag is when somebody talks about something proudly that they do. So he's defying death's ability to brag that this person has light has been shaded by death, by the darkness that death brings. So I believe Shakespeare is saying that your beauty, your light, your memory will shine on forever, and even death can't steal your beauty or your light. Shakespeare, to me, is vowing that his love will not lose their beauty to death or to time, but will be preserved through his poetry. As we see in the phrase, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. How could Shakespeare foresee that his poetry would live so long? I don't know, but it's true. He's now read by so many people around the world. Sonnet 18 is one of the most popular pieces of poetry ever written. So long as men can breathe, our eyes can see. So long lives this, and this gives life to thee. The power of words to immortalize this person is amazing. I believe he did this as a beautiful memorial to his son. A memorial is something that's made to remind people of a person or event and loving memory of that person. And how lovelier than to write a poem about them and about how much you love them. I think that he wrote this as a memorial for his son Hamnet, because Hamnet was only 11 when he died. It was a tragic death. And at that time, Shakespeare was mainly writing comedies. And all of a sudden, his writing took a turn and he started writing more tragedies. And so a lot of people think that Hamlet's death and the grief that Shakespeare was suffering really influenced his writing for tragedies, especially for his play known as Hamlet. Should I compare you to a day in summer? You are more lovely and more consistent. Rough winds destroy spring flowers, and summer does not last long enough. Sometimes the sun shines too hot, and other times the light is covered by the clouds, and every beauty eventually fades away, either from misfortune or because of nature's cycle. But your eternal summer beauty will never fade. You will never lose possession of your beauty. Death will never take you. You will never die, because you will always be in this poem's lines. As long as the world exists and people are alive, this poem will always exist, making you immortal.